Hello everyone, and welcome back to Of Bricks and Dragons. I was hoping to have some sort of real map kind of put together here, but unfortunately I'm having problems trying to get my computer to talk to my printer, so unfortunately that's just not going to happen. So I do have a good tablet of paper, and we're just going to have to do things a little on the old school side. So I'm using some pre-generated characters here, just trying to make it nice and easy. This way we can get going on things. So what we're starting with is we're going to do the Once Upon a Time in the Wasteland. Now we're going to start this off. I don't know if I'm going to go through all of it. We're going to get through the first part today. Actually, you know, why not? We'll do all three parts of the campaign here. And then along the way here, what I'll try and do is I'll try and figure out what's going on with that knucklehead printer of mine, and we will try and get it going so that way we can we can get things going, so I can have maps and stuff like that made, like I was kind of hoping to. I was spent an afternoon working on stuff, trying to get things going, trying to find some nice stuff or whatever, and I was like, okay, well, let me get printing on this, and I can't get it to go. So unfortunately it just drove me nuts, and then it just shut everything down. Alright, so if you have the game, what I'm doing is I have a couple pre-generated characters. So these are, we have the Augusta Byron, Happy Tommy Doyle, Bailey Big Smile, and then we have Marvin. Marvin is our Mr. Handy Droid. So I'm just using some Lego minifigures. I don't know which one's going to be which yet. I'm thinking that's going to be our Vault Dweller, and then that'll be our Ghoul. I do have a better Ghoul face somewhere. Actually, if I know it's a Ghoul, let me go find something here quick. And all right, so here we go. I'm going to swap this out. I do have a couple zombie figures. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put one of the zombie figures in. So this will be my Ghoul. So we got a Ghoul, nice zombie face. That kind of works. I've got them positioned this way to start off for a reason here. Like I've said before in one of my other videos, I've already played through the very beginning part of the campaign here. So I'll leave these out here for the moment, so that way we can try and figure all this out. So this isn't brand new. We've kind of done this a little bit before, and unfortunately my camera is just having a dickens of a time trying to... Alright, I'm bringing it down, so hopefully we can... I think it's trying to figure out if it wants to center on the... on our character sheets, or if it's trying to center on that. So let me get these out of the way. Maybe that'll help. There we go. I think that made it a little bit better. Computers are nice when they work, but they're not so nice when they decide that they have a better idea than what you do for what it wants to do, or it just doesn't know what it wants to do. So if you need to, pause the video, grab something to drink and something to munch on or whatever. I'm going to run through this. I've got a little bit of reading. I'm going to do this kind of like how I was doing the Star Trek. So I'm going to read a lot of the extra stuff in here as well. That way when you're trying to do this with your own group. This actually started off as not a very long part into everything. We had a little bit of combat and stuff like that, which does take a little bit of time. Because I do horrible, I'm going to kind of go past that a little bit, okay? And we're just gonna I'll go into combat. So if you're brand new to this, you have an idea of how combat goes. This does differ a little bit from the Star Trek, but it is pretty much the same system. And when we come up to that difference, I'll explain it to you. So here we go. So we have the campaign overview. Alright, in the nuclear ravaged wasteland of the Commonwealth, an armed standoff outside of a ruined vault leads a group of strangers, which is our group, into a discovery that paints a target on their backs and could forever change the region. If they can survive, Will the strangers become a beacon of hope for the future amidst the bleakness of the post-atomic America, or will they take the spoils all for themselves? All right, so we have part 1, Into Vault 95. In their first quest together, the player characters, PCs, must put aside their differences to explore a mysterious pre-war vault. Together, they rescue a gravely wounded scientist and learn about her struggling community. With her final breaths, the scientists ask the PCs to promise to deliver a mysterious message to a man in Diamond City. The basic game systems are explained as the story progresses, showing you how to use your action point pool to introduce complications and threats. Now, adapting this campaign settings and timeline. This campaign setting is set before the start of Fallout 4. In the Commonwealth, which consists of the ruins in and around Boston, Massachusetts. However, GMs familiar with this setting and lore can easily adopt this campaign to fit the needs of their game's setting and timeline. Okay, now we have a For the Game Master's Eyes Only, and in here it says, this booklet is for Game Masters to read and use and run the quest line presented on these pages. If you're a player and you're just reading this, you could learn information that your character wouldn't know, and it could spoil the enjoyment of this starter set. So that might have been for the part before, but it's just how it all comes around. Here we go. Part 2, the Boston Ruins. Now remember, we have 4 characters here. In the second part of the campaign... Oh, no. Wait a minute. We're not going to worry about that. Okay. Into the Vault. Chapter 2. Here we go. Synopsis. The player characters are each individually drawn by the sounds of gunfire and screams to an open pre-war vault that promises untold riches to anyone who explores it. After surviving a precarious standoff with each other and a doctor named Rast, the PCs venture into the vault. Now, just for giggles and that, this is going to be Rast, and I'm going to put Rast right here. Okay. Inside Vault 95, the PCs learn a horrible experiment that once took place there. As they explore the vault, they overcome automatic defense systems and deadly traps. They finally find what the raiders are searching for, and a gravely wounded vault dweller named Mika, who knows of the location of an invaluable device she claims can create a promised land in the radioactive wasteland. Together, the characters and Mika escape from Vault 95, engaging in a shootout with a deadly Vault Tech robots. Before Mika dies of her wounds, she begs the PCs to deliver the message to a man named Clements in Diamond City. So, as an introduction, here we go. Says introduction, and this just kind of going over learning. This really shows how we learn everything here. Act 1, a classic standoff. The GM begins this act with 1 action point. So let me get an action point. Okay, so I have extra action points in that. Player characters start with no action points in the group's pool. Alright. So again, just like I said, if you didn't watch the Star Trek, I used, these are just regular like Ziploc or whatever snack bags, because I have the original starter set, and I had gotten the Game Master's toolkit. So I have a bunch of extra Nuka-Cola caps here. Okay, so for that, I think it really kind of helps to try and separate them and keep them handy so I can just use whatever I need. Okay. This scene opens with a classic Western trope, an armed standoff between the PCs to invoke the sense of tension that and get the players' hearts racing. Read the following aloud when you are ready to begin the quest. So the prologue here. Welcome to the Commonwealth, the nuclear-ravaged wastelands outside of Old Boston. You have each followed the sounds of screams and gunfire to Vault 95, a remnant of the old world before the Great War. Before the bombs dropped, the vault's external lights flicker several times but remain lit, and remarkably, its door lies open, inviting any manner of scavenger or scoundrel to plumb its depths. It's a cold night, bone cold, and the sky is aglow with an eerie green light. That telltale light radiates from the region beyond the vault known as the Glowing Sea. A gust of frigid winds blows tumbleweeds across the small hill outside the vault entrance. Each of you is standing in a circle, facing each other. They're on the hillside, strangers meeting for the first time. Each of you knows the vault promises valuable treasures from the old world, treasures most people in the Commonwealth would be willing to kill for. So, after the prologue, it is time for the players to introduce ourselves. So, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have our players kind of introduce ourselves. So we're going to start off with Augusta Bryan. Let's see here. So we have a vault dweller. So this is our vault dweller in what's, I figured it looked a little bit more, a little neater, in a way. So that's our vault dweller. Okay. So Augusta, not knowing if it's a gentleman or a young lady, and I'm just using this figure for a start. Whether we keep this format or not, I don't know. Let's see. Augusta sitting there with a 10mm pistol in her hand, while wearing, let's see, a Vault jumpsuit. Predominantly on the wrist, you see a Pip-Boy, and let's see, looks a little bit more upkept than probably some of the others. Alright, so we have Happy Tommy Doyle, which is a survivor. So this will be Tommy. So Tommy is holding a pipe gun and is wearing some tough clothes. Has a formal hat on. And let's see, he's got a constant smile and a slick charm. Resides from Diamond City, so he knows Diamond City. Then we have Bailey Big Smile, so that's our zombie here. And Bailey is holding a pipe gun as well. Let's see, we have Drifter outfit. Probably kind of worn and torn over the years, but let's see, just kind of looking things over. Looks like she has a very worldly look upon her, and her clothes look like they have been through quite a bit of things. And then we have a Mr. Handy. Let's see, we have a pincer, buzzsaw, flamer, and a baseball bat, so your common Mr. Handy. And of course has been dinged and scratched and all that from different things, and is probably a companion to, I'm going to say, our scavenger here, Happy Tommy Doyle. So putting that all together, and then of course we have our doctor here, Rast, Dr. Rast. Okay, so we're going to do the calm before the storm, so I'm going to read this to you here. After introducing the final PC, read or paraphrase the following to begin the scene. In those quiet moments, as each of you stare at each other, locked in tense standoff, there's a loud burst of gunfire from somewhere within the open vault. A moment later, a woman's scream pierces the ear with 3 haunting words: "Help me! Somebody!" The final person in your standoff circle, a middle-aged man wearing a white lab coat caked in mud, his face entirely covered by a wheezing gas mask, slowly raises his hands above his head. He's not holding a weapon. "Please, friends," the man says as he takes a nervous but brave step toward the center of the circle. So we will do that. Alright. Please, someone inside the vault is in trouble. And besides, I'm sure there's enough valuables inside for all of us. None of us need to die out here. Alright. So non-player character introducing himself is eager to de-escalate any of the situation. So however your group is going about things or whatever, he will introduce himself as Dr. Rast, a physician from Far Harbor, which lies a great distance to the northeast. He claims that his daughter ran away from home and that he has traveled hundreds of miles looking for her. He appears to be a very empathetic and caring individual, if a little naive to the harsh realities of this world. Alright, so we want to avoid any character conflict here amongst the players. So there is another part here. I'm going to read it to you. So if you're trying to learn this, it says Rast is a liar. Okay, Rast is lying about pretty much everything. He's a highly advanced synthetic humanoid or synth that is working as an operative for the mysterious organization calling itself the Institute. Rast is here looking for a woman named Mika, who is in possession of a Gek with unique properties that the Institute wants to get its synthetic hands on. Rast knows that a gang of raiders are also pursuing Mika, and that he cannot take them all by himself. His goal is to convince the PCs to work together until he has the Gek, at which point he intends to betray them all at the most opportune moment. Okay. So we have the Trail of Blood. So at this point, while the PCs are interested interacting with each other and Rast, ask a player who describes their PC as paying attention to the vault entrance with their surroundings to make a perception and medicine test with a difficulty of 1. So with that being said, we're going to grab just whoever, and I guess our vault dweller is on top here, so we need a perception and medicine. Perception is 6, medicine is a 3. So I'm using my Star Trek dice yet because that's what I have out here, although I will have to grab my other ones. Why don't I get those now, because I do need this one. Okay, so I've got the most important die, that one. So whether you can see it very well or not, this die has hit locations. So it's the one die that's different between Fallout and Star Trek. We're not using the hit location so much in Star Trek. But Fallout, because of using VATS and stuff like that, we had always done hit locations, so I have this out for whenever we need it. Alright, I'm going to use these dice because you can see them a little bit better. Now, it said perception, I believe. Yep, perception and medicine. I have a 6 for perception, and medicine I have a 3. So that means I have a 9 or less to roll. I get 1 success, which is what I needed, and this one, although it was kind of cockeyed and I had a 13, that's the way I'm going to read it. So if you can see this, I do have a 5. It said I needed 1 success. So there we are. Now, the GM should explain how tests work to players, because this is a 2d20 system. So if you've seen how this works, great. If this is brand new to you, this is how it works. It gives us what we need. Or if you're coming up with your own adventures, write down what you think you're going to need your players to do. Okay? And then, instead of normally you're trying to get that number or higher, here we're trying to get lower than that number. Now there's other things that could add to that to raise it up and make it easier for us. Now we always roll 2 20-sided dice. We can always buy extra dice, okay? And now if we have action points, we can actually use an action point to try and buy an extra die. If we don't have an action point, we can buy a die, but what that does is that gives us threat. I think they're calling it threat here. Let's see. Nope, I think they're calling it complication. Okay, so if I needed it, I could add a complication. So that's going to be the red caps. Okay, that'll be a complication. And with a complication, that means that something that would have been easy before is now a little bit more difficult. As a referee or game master, or however you want to call it, I have options. I can either say I'm going to require you, instead of getting 1 success, 2 successes, or in a minor trip I might have a small combat session in there, or I might turn a small combat into a harder combat or something. Okay, so that's how things balance out. Okay, so with this, kind of explain this. Let's see here. For each result on the d20 that is equal to or less than the test target number, the player generates 1 success. Well, we only got the 1, so we don't get any extra. Let's see here. If you have a tag skill for that character, and it happens to be your medicine, which it was not. So I'm going to put my character sheet here so I can help you understand this. See, on here, these are tag skills. So my medicine was not, but if it was, then what they're saying is, if medicine is a tag skill for that character, for each result on the d20 that is equal to or less than the required skill, the player instead generates 2 successes. If the medicine is not a tag skill, then each roll of 1 generates 2 successes. Now, the last time that we played Star Trek, I was using that as well. If I rolled a 1, which I did not, but if I rolled a 1, it counts as 2. And I was starting to say about that. I didn't do it, but that's what I was starting to say. That's what we were doing, and this is where we got that from. I get to wet my whistle here. Okay, so hopefully you're kind of getting the idea here. Now, for each result on the d20 that is a 20, the player generates 1 complication. Complications introduce a new element to the story that makes things more difficult. And we already talked about the complication, all right? So alternatively, the GM can choose to instead add 2 action points to the Game Master's pool. They can use later. In the case of this test, it is recommended that the GM add 2 action points to the Game Master's pool. That didn't happen. We're just kind of going on. Okay. So what we do have is we have 1 opportunity that we can ask a question. They have 3 different questions here as a common one. Where does the blood trail lead? How fresh is the blood? How much blood is present? I'm going to read all 3. I think where does the blood trail lead will be mine. Anything beyond that, I'm not going to put onto my characters here, so I'll read it. The trail of blood stops about 100 feet to the northeast, suggesting that whoever is bleeding was wounded not far from the entrance of the vault. which means that they're probably in the vault. So that's where we're going to go. Now, the two questions I'm not asking is how fresh is the blood? The blood is still wet where it sticks to weathered grass. How much blood is present? There is a massive amount of blood. Whomever is wounded likely requires immediate medical attention to survive. Okay? Now, those last two I'm not going to worry about. I just know there's a blood trail going to the vault. That's where we're going to go. Now, the last bit here, as the PCs come to an accord on what to do next, a combat encounter is triggered before they can enter the vault. So, here we have combat. I do have a couple. Alright. Scene 2, Raider Ambush. The scene begins with a sudden encounter with a merciless gang of wasteland raiders. As you begin, read or paraphrase the following. The sound of rapid gunfire explodes from the open door to the vault, accompanied by a flash of barrels unloading toward the hill where you are gathered. A guttural male cry goes out from the entryway. Scavengers out here, trying to follow the girl. Light 'em up, boys! A moment later, a large, muscle-bound, bald man dressed in military fatigues, armed to the teeth, charges out of the vault towards you, opening fire wildly. Several other mercenaries follow behind him, equipped with the same fashion, with guns blazing. One of the raiders squeals with mad glee. Nobody moves on the Red Rockies turf. Okay, so now we have stats here. We have Red Rocky, and we have stats for Raider. I'm going to do this, just making it a little easier. So I'm going to put 3 characters out here. So we're going to have Red Rocky and 2 Raiders. Okay, just trying to put them all off in the distance. I don't have any stands for my characters at the moment, and yeah, they're probably going to keep falling over. Because unfortunately, the paper is not as nice and easy for everything to stand on as I'd like. Okay, so there's our group, kind of lining them up, and then we have Rad Rocky and the other parts of his gang here. Okay, so now we have to figure out who has initiative. Alright, let's see here. Introducing combat. So I'm going to read this so hopefully you have an understanding here. Combat is a key element to most quests in the world of Fallout. The GM is encouraged to teach the basic concepts of combat rules in this encounter, explaining that they will save reaching more complex rules for later encounters. The rules for combat are continued in the starter rules book. Okay, now what we need to do is we need to come up with an initiative. We have, and I'm going to kind of show you here. So we got Augusta has an initiative, and hopefully I'm doing this correctly. Augusta has an initiative of an 11. Tommy's got an initiative of 10. We have Bailey with an initiative of 12, and Marvin's got an initiative of an 11. Now, I'm going to kind of show you here are the group that we're going after. So, we have Rad Rocky, level 2 human, has defense initiative of 15, and his raider friends are an 11. So, just trying to keep this simple. I know I roll terrible. I'm going to do a couple rounds of combat. We're going to have everyone, our group, make it through. But this way you have an understanding how this all kind of works here. Alright. Seeing that they were kind of yelling out, our group's going to have a first go. And I think what we're going to do is everyone's going to shoot at this gentleman here, one of the raiders, at least and until that one's gone, and then we'll just kind of switch up. All right, so just kind of doing it in a very basic video game-ish style here. All right, now I need to grab my sheets so that way we can get through here. We have Marvin to start with. Oops, actually, well, yeah, we'll do Marvin. So Marvin's got a flamer and range is C, so that's close. So Marvin actually has to move closer. And Marvin has a movement of, I'm trying to find the movement. Melee combat luck points. Let's see here. I'm kind of drawing a blank here. Flamer fuel. Now, I don't typically use a lot of, or worry too much about ammo. So if you ever watch any of my games or whatever, I don't really worry a lot about like the weight or that, to a point. And I know that they have weight in here because, I mean, people can pick up a ton of stuff. If I know that players are really trying to abuse it, I will definitely start using weight and say, hey, you guys are so slowed down, you're carrying way too much stuff. As far as ammo and all that stuff, to know that they start off with stuff, I don't usually add in, like you looted like 24 rounds of such and such or whatever else. I just play it off as, you know, they're constantly scavenging more ammo and they find it and that. So, you know, I don't want to bog everything down. I want my group to have fun. That's the way I do it. However you choose to do it, that's important for you and your group. Some groups are really going to want to do an ammo control so that way they can get more creative. And that's perfectly fine. There's no reason why you can't do that. I'm just saying, I know that I don't worry much about it because with my group, it's never been a real big thing. I don't feel like my characters were always, or the players that I have, like they really abuse everything. Really, we kind of work with each other. We don't, you know, we're doing this for fun, and that's really the biggest thing. What I'm failing to do here is I'm failing to see how many movement points we have. And that is really kind of getting me here. Okay, so I have health, current, defense, melee damage, initiative, my physical damage resistance. But what I don't see is I do not see how much movement he's got. Now I'm hoping maybe I see it on the next one, because typically we get into a firefight and then we don't worry about it. Alright, well, maybe I may have to look this up or whatever. I think typically we go about 30 feet, which is going to be roughly it'll be 6 inches worth of movements here. So, and I don't think he's going to make it all the way over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. He's still, I think, out of range. Trying to remember exactly how close damage was. I'm kind of drawing a little bit of a blank here. I'm looking at the Game Master book, or trying to. I've got it hidden all the way on the bottom. Alright, so looking at combat, as I flip through this, magazines, we have, if you saw the thing about what I mentioned on our video for the role-playing game and all that, it does really have a good sense of how to do things. A lot of things are kind of a standard in regards, but okay, close range represents any distance within the zone you're in, a distance of 0 zones. Yeek. So I don't know exactly how long a zone is. So kind of reading here, so I'm sorry. Okay, so movement and zones. Let me read this out so that way you can hear this and it's not just a blank here. All right. When you move into a zone as part of a movement action, you can move your character within reach of any object within that zone. So, when using a move minor action to move into an adjacent zone, you can move to any point in that zone equally when using the sprint action. You can move to any point within a zone that is 2 zones away. This could put you into reach with an enemy or an object you need. So really, this kind of follows if you're just talking this out a little bit more. So if we were seeing that we were at long range, so I went medium to short range. I am not at close range, so therefore, with that being said, I can't fire with our Mr. Handy. So, let's see. Marvin can't shoot because he is at short, not close range. All right. Bailey is trying to use a pipe gun, and there again, we have to get to range C, which is close. So there again, Bailey is going to have to move all the way up here and is still not able to move, or still not able to fire. Alright, now we have Happy. Happy again, same thing. Survivor here. So he's going to move all the way up like that. And then we have Augusta, and Augusta is using a 10 millimeter pistol. I think something seems a little off on this, but just trying to go off of how things are said and things are done here. And then we have our doctor who has no gun in hand. I will see very quickly, does our doctor actually have a gun? Oh, let's see. Nope. He has unarmed strike, and oh, he's got a laser rifle. Laser rifle has a medium range. So if we were at long range before, he could sit back here and he could shoot. Alright, so again, we're going to have him shoot at that one. He has perception and energy weapons. Target number is 11 or better, so we have 2 dice. I'm going to roll them, and I got a 2 and I have a 12. Now here's where things get kind of funny, because you have to have 2 successes in order to hit. So in that regard, he missed. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll so that we can kind of see how this goes. We have Rad Rocky right here. He has, and it is kind of nice that they have sharpshooter's pipe revolver. Target number 3. And there again, he's at range of close. So he has to then get close. Alright. Now what I don't know is who he's shooting at. So now we're doing all the way across. If it's a 6, it's going to be do-over. That's 2. That works. So he's going to shoot. Now he's got to get an 8 or better. Or 8 or less. So I got a 16 and a 4. Okay? So he misses. Now our next one comes up. And I'm just kind of moving him up. He's got a 1, so he's shooting at this one for whatever reason. And they have pipe gun. Target number is 8. So I have a 16 and a 3. So again, misses. Same thing. 7 and a 6. Now that one hit. I didn't roll for who. So for 4. This is 4. So our Marvin would have taken, let's see, this does 3 damage, or 3 dice. Okay, so when you're rolling 3 dice. Now this is the way this works, because you have 4 sides, and I'll use this one. So you have a blank, you have a 2, you have a 1. On the Fallout dice, it will be a Pip-Boy. On this, it's a Starfleet symbol, and then you have a blank. And you have 2 Starfleet symbols, or 2 Pip-Boy symbols, and 2 blanks, and a single and a double. So if it comes up as a blank, you don't hit anything. Okay? Think of it as, you just barely grazed them or whatever. Of course, if we have 2, now this would have done 5 damage. Now whatever special ability your weapon does, that's what that is. Okay? So because they have a pipe rifle or pipe gun, there is no extra damage or anything else. Okay? It is just done this way. If you had a gun that had the vicious trait, whenever you roll a symbol, or your Pip-Boy symbol, or in our case the Federation symbol, that would have been 2 points. So that would have been 6 points of damage. Now, when you look at your character, because we have armor and all that, now Marvin has physical damage resistance. This is a physical attack, okay, because it's ammo. So he has a 2. So with that being said, that means that the first 2 points they hit are not going to do anything. Okay? So that's what that all is about. So instead of taking 5 damage, he only takes 3 damage. So right now he has an 8 that would drop down to 5 points of health. And this is how it goes, and it just continues on. So if I was to take our characters and say, hey, here's Marvin, and I'm going to roll Marvin against this gentleman here, and he needs, let's see, this is going to be an energy attack because now they're close. I believe it is physical. Oh, agility and small guns. So we have agility of 5 and small guns being nothing. So that means he's got to get a 5 or better. So I got 1 5, but I got a 16. So Marvin missed. So then we go all the way through. So we have Bailey, agility 6, small guns 2, and 8 or better. Now Bailey actually hit. So Bailey is running with a pipe gun, which is 3 damage. So that's a pretty good roll. I got 4. Our Raider here has damage resistance. Arms, physical is 1, and the arms and torso. So instead of having 4, it would have been 3 points. So that would have taken them from 8 hit points down to 5. Okay, And we're going to continue that all the way down. Now I'm going to abbreviate this so the combat doesn't take quite as long. And I always admit I'm horrible for rolling for myself, so regrettably I don't know how many times I've kind of killed off my characters in doing these, and I just do a horrible job. But I do enjoy playing it, and normally I'm rolling for the bad guys, and then I get the guys complaining because then I always roll really good for the bad guys. I'll play a character, I'll roll horrible for my character, and I'll play for the good guy or the bad guys, and then they're just doing wonderful. So I just have a very bad set of luck on that. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of fast forward through this. We're going to say that we win, they lose, okay? So I'm going to kind of move that away. There's our characters. So we're going to move on to the next point. Let me see here. So I'm going to grab the book, kind of read that off. All right. We have Rad Rocky and the Raiders. We kind of read through that a little bit. Okay. Act 2. We go into Stimpaks and recovery. So let me read this here a little bit. Stimpaks are an item that allow characters to recover hit points. On their turn, a PC or NPC may use a minor action to use a Stimpak on themselves or an adjacent character to recover 4 hit points. Or they can use a Stimpak as part of a first aid action described in the starter rules, healing an extra 4 hit points and restoring 2 hit points per action point spent rather than 1. For the purpose of this campaign, Stimpaks may only be applied once per act of a quest. Rast explains that using Stimpaks too frequently leads to painful addiction. When a PC or NPC rests for at least 6 hours, their hit points return to its maximum. Mr. Handies and other robots do not recover hit points normally. Refer to the starter rules, page 31, for information on how to repair robots. Because we have a robot here, so let me grab that, page 31. Because some people don't just play old standard vanilla characters. Here, healing robots. Robots and other machines cannot recover from injuries naturally. They require maintenance to restore damage. Attempting a first aid action on a robot or suit of power armor or other large machine like a vehicle requires an intelligence and repair test with a difficulty of 2. This increases by +1 for each injury the machine has suffered. Passing the test restores health points equal to your repair rating, treats an injury, or stabilizes a dying machine. Machines cannot use chems, although a repair kit functions for machines as Stimpaks do for living characters. Machines cannot heal through eating, drinking, rest, or medical attention. Outside of combat, an hour's work on a damaged machine restores hit points equal to twice the repairer's repair skill rating. Now, I'm going to kind of throw this out here and say I kind of don't agree with that in a little ways, because if we can heal up and we're trying to do this for fun and excitement, and that, why not let your robotic allies and that have the same ability as you, and say after six hours of rest you can heal all the way. That would make a little bit of sense to me, because this is all fantasy. We can use science and everything else, and I even consider Star Trek, and it might be heresy to some people, but I consider Star Trek as a science fantasy as well, mainly because there's things that we do, you know, when you have Captain Kirk fighting gods and stuff like that. That's all kind of fantasy. It's not reality. Let's just have fun. So trying to do the same thing. Yes, you need a different kind of a healing. You need a healing kit or a repair kit, not a stim pack to do the same thing. But let them heal after 6 hours. I think that would be a good thing. For me, if anyone was using a robot or something like that, I think I'd throw that in as a house rule. That's me. However you play, you do it. Now, we're going to go to Act 2 here. After the battle. I'll read this out. I'm not worried about it because this is just them. The PCs can loot any items from the raiders, so they can get the extra guns or whatever else to sell. If there's armor on them that they want to get that they don't have, you can raid that. Additionally, on each raider, they can also find 1d20 caps. The caps used for currency in Fallout, and 10 plus 5 d6 rounds of 30.38 ammo. Okay, so what we're going to do is we have 3 characters. We have three of them. So we're going to do this. We have an 18, 19, and a, whoops, as I move the camera, and a 10. Okay, so we find, what would it be, 20, 30, 47 caps in all. Okay, so we get some 47 caps here. Kind of straighten this out. And okay, so 5. 4 or 5. So we're gonna roll. Oh my goodness, this is a horrible roll. So they want me to roll 5 dice. So these 3 are nothing, so they didn't get anything there. And I got 2. That's all it is. So that'd be 20 38 caliber rounds. Okay. And this is why I say I don't really worry about the rounds. I just figure you're gonna find it or whatever else. Okay. He just dumped them. Okay, so my youngest daughter is trying to clean cages for our wonderful bunnies down here. Cute and cuddly as they are, they sometimes get to be very kind of messy. Especially when you're trying to feed them and they stick their head underneath we have a scooper for the food and they'll flip it around. And that's what he did. Being silly. Alright. Scene 1, entering the vault. So, this is where I didn't have a map before, and I was kind of frustrated that we didn't have a map here. I'm going to move our extras here. I'm going to move our characters just off here, and then we're going to... Okay, so I got a pen here. Alright. So, here's the scene. As the PCs enter the vault, read aloud or paraphrase the following. You cross a rickety walkway leading through the entrance of the vault. The old metal creaks beneath you, underscoring the hollowing of a radioactive windstorm building outside. An elevator stands at the end of the path to the vault. Above is a dented doorway hangs a wide green sign from the old world. A notice from Vault Tech Corporation that reads, Vault 95, welcome home. Proceed in an orderly fashion. Now, so let me just kind of draw out a little bit here, and then we will, I got a whole tablet of paper. So we have our vault entrance here, so we're going to kind of darken this up a little bit. Our vault door is going to be in here. These are big doors, so we're just kind of this. Hopefully you guys are seeing this pretty good. And then we have our rickety bridge here. Okay, and that's going to kind of stop here. We have like little gates like that. going into it. Overhead we have our let's see, a platform here. That was that big screw, so when you're playing Fallout, you remember that big screw that kind of unlocks it. That's all kind of sitting here. The vault door, I'm going to kind of notch this in a little bit, has slid back and is now sitting kind of here-ish. Yeah, somewhere in there. Kind of just notching this out a little bit, trying to give it a little bit of depth. Oops, actually, I'm messing this up. All right, the cog. Just trying to do a quick drawing of this. That's all. There's our cog here. There. So this is all kind of filled in here a little bit because this is all shaded. This is the spike of the cogs here. You get the idea. All right. So we'll have our little terminal thing here. You know how they open and close it. We'll have a little bit something over here, kind of a gate, and our characters are walking in here. Okay. All kind of single file because we kind of have to in order to get through. As long as the paper holds, then we're good. All right. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of draw this out a little bit more as my characters fumble over. All right. That being the case, we're just going to do this. And we're going to add on to it. All right. So this goes over here, kind of opens up. This is going to be open over here. Let's see here. And then we're going to have I'm going to do this for a door. So you can see that that's a door. This is all walled off. And I think what we'll do is trying to paint the picture. We have some computer controls over here or something. Maybe a console over here. There. All right. So our characters are kind of walking through here. So here we go. Walking on through. See if they fall or not, which that one looks like it's about to. But you get the idea. If I have that there, hopefully it'll hold it down a little bit better. All right. So this is it so far. Okay. And pretty soon I know I'm going to be doing a second page. So here's our second page to try and match things up, and we'll go from there. All right. So, what they're asking us to do is, if they had not spotted the trail of blood leading into the vault, which we already did, the players notice it now. It is smeared across the handrails of the walkway, and a bloody handprint stains the button to open the elevator. Invite the player characters to make an intelligence and medicine to test with a difficulty of 1. If they pass their test, they understand that the sheer amount of blood loss means that whoever is injured does not have long to live without immediate medical care. So I believe I needed like a 8 before or so. So I got a 6 and a 3. I only needed 1 success. So you typically roll 2 dice. But I have a 6, so that's a success, and that's a fail. Now it's a 19, either way, it was a fail. So we still see that there's a lot of blood here. Things are not looking good for whoever this is that we're following after. Okay. So now we have another green part in our thing, and I'm going to read this to you. The small elevator rumbles and shakes unsteadily and as it descends deeper, which, yeah, I've kind of done this a little differently than that, but into the earth. The lights lining the threadbare walls flicker a few times but remain lit, illuminating a sticky pool of blood gathered in one corner of the floor. At last, with a grinding shriek of metal gears, the elevator slams roughly into the bottom of the shaft. With a cheery ding, the door slides open to reveal a bare underground corridor of exposed pipes that stretches for some 30 feet. It bends to the left. Smears of fresh blood are evident along the right side wall, leading to a closed steel door halfway down this stretch of the hallway. Alright, so I've kind of drawn this a little differently. I'm going to get on the other side here. Okay. As I try and roll stuff out of the way here. Alright, so seeing that this is roughly it, this is our doorway. We're going to have the door here. And we go 30 feet. So we got 5, 10. Here's our 15 mark. That's 20, 25, and 30. Okay. Now I'm going to put this all the way over here like this. I'm trying to figure things out. And I'm going to add just a little extra because I know that there's something coming up here. Or at least I had something coming up there a little bit. So I added just a little extra. Now it talked about there was a set of bodies here. Okay. So what I'm going to do is we're going to have, and I'm just going to do some real stick figures here. Seeing as it's just bones. And we have a head here and an arm holding someone, as we have another body. Again, another stick figure. Okay. And then what we have is I'm going to put the door right here. Okay. So when I was playing, and I kind of mentioned this in our Aftermath video, I missed that door. And the reason why I missed the door is because I'm reading through it and we have bodies here. So I missed the door, but there was a turn here. Okay. So this is the reason why I really wanted to have a map, and unfortunately we're doing it this way instead of having something nicely printed, which is what I was hoping. But this is what we have. Okay. The Vault 95 experiment. I'm going to read that one here. Oh, wait a minute. Let me continue on here. Now this is going to be a spoiler again for anybody that's trying to play this, but the first PC who takes a close look at the hallway, the door, or the skeletons before approaching the door or the bend in the corridor, and that's what this is. This is the bend. Okay. Let's see. They will automatically notice a pair of laser-guided tripwires blocking access to the door and entry further into the hall. To proceed, the PCs must either attempt to carefully step over and duck under the crisscrossed lines of laser sights, or disarm the traps. Now, what I had done, because the characters that, or the group that I had when we were playing, they failed to realize and they just walked straight on through. So what I did here is right where the bodies are, right about the head, there is a set of tripwires. Okay, so they tripped that up. So what I kind of said to them, as I move everyone up, I'm going to try and slide this up here. Hopefully this all works. so you can see a little bit better. We have a little bit better view here. Looks like you guys can see some of what I'm trying to draw out here, and then of course everything goes a little fuzzy. Come on. Stay. All right. I think the camera wants to work fine. All right. So some of the things that we're running into is we have those trip lines. The guys that I had, they missed it. So at that point, I'm just grabbing some Legos here because it works nice and easy. They missed it, so I put this out here and I said, you know, hopefully this doesn't bleed through and onto the pool table. I said that there is a turret there. Now I gave the turret essentially just a real nice and easy, if you hit it, you damage it, it's perfectly fine. It's now dead. Just trying to make it nice and easy for them to have a little extra excitement there, trying to understand what's all going on, and the like here. So let's see, I think we have like an 8 or better or something like that. See how I roll horrible. I have an 18 and a 16, and I can roll another one, a 3 and a 5. So someone eventually hits it here, and see, now I don't even get any damage, so that wouldn't even work. So then somebody else has to hit. I'm just seeing it's an 8 or better just because. Okay, and whatever. See, I'm not even doing the whole damage because trying to figure out the range. I mean, if I was playing Fallout as a video game, I could hit it. So this is kind of tripping me up here exactly how far away. I would say that this should be fine, but it's going to take a little bit more reading, and trust me, I'm not saying I'm an expert at this. I'm still trying to learn a little bit on my own as I'm doing this, so trying to get the range increments and all that stuff down, it will take a little bit, okay? But yeah, I just do horrible. And if I was to have this roll and hit someone here, and I said that needed an 8, there's a 9, there's a 4. So thankfully it missed, but still, I get better with that than I do. So the group actually took this out, but I also said it tripped a wire, or tripped an alarm. So they may have taken that out, but if I wanted to throw any other robots guarding this or anything else, it would make a sound. Okay. And I was thinking, because I missed that door, I thought we had to go farther into here. This kind of forces us into the door, so we're going to get into this door, and this is where we end up going for the rest of it. We don't really get into the vault all that much, really just here, and this is kind of where things, you know, it doesn't take it's just a little bit of getting yourself wet into this. We spent more time making characters and all that stuff, so with that being what it is, you know, we had a good time, everyone enjoyed it. It's just that it did work out pretty good that our first adventure here was not a very long one. Alright, so disarming the tripwires, which we failed. I mean, they didn't even see it, they just walked straight on through. Because I had them do a roll for it, they just completely missed it. So nobody even thought about it, no nothing. So yeah, whether it was my fault or their fault or whatever, I mean, you could say it either way, and I'm fine. You can put the blame on me because maybe I didn't lead them into thinking about it or whatever, but it is how it went. Alright, so scene 2, following the trail. Whether or not the PCs trigger the alarm, they must choose how to proceed. They may continue down the corridor, or where it turns left, choose to investigate the locked door or ancient skeletons lying beside it. Now, we have the locked door there. I'm going to read this. Continuing down the corridor. The vault's automated security systems are a deadly force that will require a small army to survive and are too great of a challenge for the PC's current level. So you're not really going to go down that. As you turn the corner, read or paraphrase the following. So as you turn left to follow the small metal corridor deeper into the vault, it expands quickly into a massive atrium that wraps around a huge space with a twisting maze of walkways and stairs. Roaming the atrium is a horde of deadly-looking feminine robots looping around on endless patrols. Less than a second later, a deafening alarm sounds throughout the atrium. A dozen or more hidden auto turrets drop down from positions all around the atrium, rotate their guns towards any living creature they can see, and unleash a hellstorm of laser fire. And my characters had run into that. We ran for the dickens after that. So we still had the locked door in here, which is where we kind of ended up. Now, with the locked door, says if the PCs wish to enter the locked room, they will have to pick or force the lock. If they are not in a rush, a PC can attempt to pick the lock by making a perception and a lock pick with a difficulty of 1. If the PCs are in a rush to unlock the door because they sounded the alarm, they must instead make an agility or strength and a lock pick. So let me just look at which character is better. I'm going to do it. We'll see if I actually succeed or not. And regardless, I'll put them into there because I know I'm going to roll terrible anyway. Alright, so either strength or agility and lockpick. Who's actually got a lockpick? I've got our ghoul, our survivor. Actually, we got our vault dweller, and I think our vault dweller who specializes in lockpicks. So our vault dweller must be a thief. All right, so we have a tag here of 3. Now, it's either going to be strength or, what did they say? Strength or agility. I'm going to say probably going to be agility, which is a 5, and lockpick, which is a 3, so that's an 8 or better. Now, with a tag skill on here, we hit that before. Let me see what I can remember out of this because my mind is drawing a blank. And I know that we had talked about a tag skill. Tag skill. Okay, this was medicine. If medicine is a tag skill for the character, each result on a d20 equals that is equal to or less than the required skill rating, the player instead generates 2 successes. So I need, let's see, we have a difficulty of 2 and I have an 8. So now I need to roll an 8. Okay, so actually that succeeds. And because I succeeded, because I have a tag in this, each success, it actually counts for 2. So that would actually give me extra successes if I really needed it or whatever. Okay? So that's where that really comes in handy. You know, a single 1 turns into 2. The 2 now turns into 4. So we definitely got the door open. We get in there. So that worked out pretty well for us. Let's see. Now we have Act 3, the Vault Dweller. You enter a small room with 2 walls lined with dusty, disabled computers, ashtrays, empty chem injections, and broken bottles litter the floor. A single working computer and monitor glows with a dull green light on a desk cluttered with files. Sitting with her back slumped up against an adjacent desk is a young woman with short hair wearing a warm, tight-fitting clothes suited for long-distance travel. Her glasses lay askew on her nose. One of the lenses is fractured. Her hands are soaked with blood as they try to apply pressure to a vicious hole in her abdomen. After a few moments, she looks up and speaks in a serene but painted voice. "Hey, Daddy-O," she says, smiling enough that you can see her broken teeth. "Looks like you're all stuck with me now." Okay, so now we have Mika the Vault Dweller. Mika is a brilliant ecologist and a vault dweller from a little-known vault to the far west. Her community suffered starvation and hardship as their machines that create food and provide water have broken down over time. The last of her people with the strength and bravery to dare to leave the vault behind, Mika traveled across the Commonwealth with her vault's geck in hand, hoping to find the perfect place to create a safe and sustainable home for those she considered her family. Mika was returning from scouting out potential locations to use the geck when she was captured by gunner scouts wanting the geck for themselves. Tough as nails, she managed to escape capture and kill several mercenaries, but suffered a mortal gunshot wound. She knows that she is dying. And while the fortuitous meeting with the PCs could mean there is still hope for her family, she's worried to trust them with her secrets until they prove to her that they are better than most of the heartless scum that roam the Commonwealth. So, with the player characters meeting Mika, we have another reading here. Any PC who's also a Vault Dweller, which we do have one person in here that's a Vault Dweller, and it's Augusta. Let's see. So we're going to have a roll coming up here. Any PC who is also a Vault Dweller knows the terrible horrors of Vault-Tec's sociological and biological experiments. They understand this place and Mika in a way that other characters cannot. If they reveal their personal origins to Mika to show her their Pip-Boy device, she will trust them implicitly. All charisma tests to speak to Mika are reduced to a difficulty of 0 for that PC. So, now that we have someone here that can speak to her, we have, let's see, it's going to be... Dun, da, da, da. Oh, excuse me. I had a long day at work here. Okay. So what we're going to look for is we're going to do a charisma check, which is a 6, and a speech, which I have a 2, so that's an 8 or better. So I got 1 4, and I got a 13, so that didn't make it. The 4 made it. I only had a 0, so really I didn't even need to roll. But by rolling, that would have given the players an extra action point. So we could use that for whatever. Okay? So, let's see. Exploring the room. Now this is going to be a luck check. So I'm going to use a 5 for one of our characters. And I got a 5 and a 7. So with a luck check, we can add some detail to the scene. We have a stacked deck, lucky timing, misfortune, stuff like that. Okay. So we can add a detail to the scene, like the desk files. The scattered files on the desk are missing many pages but contain medical and psychological reports for all 72 of the residents of Vault 95, dated over a period of 5 years. They indicate that the vault dwellers are all alcoholics and drug addicts, being treated through a variety of community-based therapies and an unnamed medical procedure overall. The reports are mundane and uninteresting, but suggest that the addicts' treatment were extraordinarily successful, and they formed a tight-knit community in the vault. Okay. After all that, we have to hack the computer. To navigate the computer system, a player character may make an intelligence and science test with the difficulty of 0. When a test has a difficulty of 0, a player does not have to roll to pass their test. They may choose to roll the test anyway to generate AP, which I kind of said already, with each success. So if I was to say we're going to take Augusta, because Augusta is sitting here on top of the sheets with intelligence and science, we have science of a 3, intelligence of a 9, so now we have a 12. Now I rolled a 17 and a 14. I didn't get any extra benefit out of it, but we still succeeded. Alright. We can, if I did succeed and I had the extra APs, I could find out things like Vault 95's purpose, the Vault houses laser turrets and Mr. Gutsy's and stuff like that, or like if the alarm is tripped, I can maybe turn the alarm off or something, or something in those ranges. Okay, some of the same things you might find in your normal computer use in any of the Fallout games. Alright, so now we need to go to Scene 2, Escaping the Vault. Actually, I need to do a charisma and speech or bargain with Mika in order to try and do things here. I'm going to do speaking with Mika. I'm going to read that all out. I'm going to do my charisma. So let's see what we have. And I'm just using the same character because it's right here. Speech is 2, charisma is 6. That's a, and the fact that this is the same character she feels more intuitive to. I got a 9 and a 13, so really I got nothing. But we're going to say that it succeeded here. Alright, after each player character has had time to investigate one element of the room, which we're going to go on with, Rast approaches them with shaking hands. He tells them that there is nothing they can do for the dying woman unless they can get her proper working medical facilities, and the closest place he knows is Diamond City to the northeast. Despite her wounds, Mika seems peaceful and entertains talking to any PC that she believes might be trustworthy. So we're going to say that Augusta, because they're a fellow Vault Dweller. She tells them her name and that she is a Vault Dweller from a vault far to the west. She informs them that her people are starving and she has been searching the Commonwealth for a way to help them. Mika is hesitant to answer questions in detail or fully trust the PCs yet. Any PC trying to get more information from her, and this is our failed test, must make a charisma and speech test or bargain test with a difficulty of 2 to convince her to tell her them more. If they pass their test, she may spend AP to obtain information, but Mika is unwilling to tell them about the GEC or where her home is located, yet some answers are possible. So we have Mika is returning home. Mika's vault is a community of scientists. Mika is in a lot of pain, but she's trying not to think too much about it. After the conversation has gone its course, Mika offers a reward to the PCs with rare old world technology if they are willing to help carry her out of the vault and get her to home. She knows that she's dying, but believes that she can make it back home. There is something there that might be able to save her family. The PCs are unwilling to help her. Rast shames them and helps her to her feet, and the doctor refuses to leave Mika behind, which I kind of did a little differently in my group. So, alright. Scene 2, escaping the vault. Carrying Mika out of the vault may prove challenging. If the player characters previously triggered the alarm and did not hack the computer to disable it, a Mr. Gutsy appears in the hallway. We're just going to kind of fast forward through this. And then we're going to have an encounter 3A, Guts of Steel. So, encounter 3A, I'm just going to read this off. At the far end of the hall, a floating Mr. Gutsy robot appears from around the corner. The machine is a spherical bot, just like the one that I have, which I'm using a R2 to simulate it. With 3 ocular devices extended from the top of the 3 heavily armed mechanical tendrils. Stretching out from its base, it spins around in a circle, focusing its camera-like eyes on you. And a deafening alarm rings out throughout the hall. Now, they fought against, I'm not going to read all, Mr. Handy to the rescue. We're going to get to the world above. So once we get up above, once the player characters ascend the elevator, they return to the entrance of Vault 95. The night is much the same as before, cold with clear skies that glow with a bright green light from the nearby glowing sea. Any raider corpses are grotesquely missing chunks of flesh from them from an unknown beast that has made a meal of them. Mika is quiet now, struggling to breathe. Once the characters are ready, read or paraphrase the following. So here we're going to read the rest of this. Dr. Rast lays Mika down gently on the cold ground and removes his gas mask, revealing his face for the first time. Rast is a silver-haired, dashing man, but his eyes have compassionate tears as he stares down at the dying woman. Mika lets her hand rest back against a rock. A peaceful expression touches her face, causing her to smile as she stares up at the green, glowing sky above. Funny, she whispers softly. When I was a little girl, I always dreamed about what the world above was like. Blue skies, birds chirping, sunrise or sunshine. Never imagined I'd lie beneath a radioactive green sky. Never imagined it'd be so pretty. Ain't that a bite? Mika laughs musically to herself until that laugh turns to an anguished cough filled with blood. Rast quietly hushes her. He looks over his shoulder to anyone watching and says sadly, "It won't be long now." Mika's death. So, there's some stuff here. Whether you go through speech choices or not or whatever, there's things here like Mika's dying, or Mika was being hunted because the gunners learned that she knows a hidden location of an incredible old world device called a Garden of Eden creation kit, capable of terraforming even the most irradiated wasteland into a lush, fertile place. The Gek is hidden in her home outside of Diamond City. She does not think anyone will be able to find it. She's unwilling to tell the PCs the location. Alright, third point is, she hopes to find the perfect location to use the Gek so that she could lead her family and friends out of their dying vault and give them a perfect new home. Fourth point here, she is in pain, but even more, She is afraid of dying. She does not know what comes after and is scared that nothing waits for her on the other side. Last of all, and this isn't a point but just saying, Rast watches the conversations with a grief-stricken look. After each of the PCs have expressed interest in speaking to Mika, and are finished, read this next part. Rast kneels against Mika's side and soaks a washcloth with cool water from his canteen. He takes Mika's hand in his and lays the washcloth over her forehead. I'll stay here with you. Just rest. He reassures her. Mika only manages a weak nod in her head, or nod of her head in reply. Rast squeezes her hand and quietly asks, "You remind me so much of my daughter. She's brave, just like you. As with anyone, or is there anything we can do for you?" Mika cuts him off quickly, grasping his arm with a sudden burst of strength. "Diamond City, a man named Clements. Tell him Mika said, it's time to find the promised land." And then Mika relaxes and exhales softly, her dark eyes drifting back up to the green sky above. "Ain't that a bite?" she whispers, with her final breath. So now we're to the conclusion of what we've had. So after Mika's death, Rast is quiet, but interested in what the player characters will do next. Do they care enough for the stranger to bury her? Will they grant her final request and head toward Diamond City? Do they seem interested in finding the Gek? Rast knows that he needs the PC's help if he's going to recover the device the Institute has sent him to acquire. And getting to know what motivates each of them is important for his continued manipulation. So essentially, he's just trying to get everyone to help him so he can reach his goal. If the group seems like they may break up or ignore Mika's request, Rast will do his best to convince them to finding Clements may lead them to locating the hiding place of Mika's Gek and the other riches. He appeals to each of them, using all of his bargaining skills to convince them to help him. At the end of the scene, the characters can gain a level from 1 to 2, which we didn't. Actually, I think we did do that. Each character's maximum health points will increase by 1. Each player then chooses one skill to increase by 1 rank up to a maximum of 6, and each player gains a choice of the choice of a new perk based on their requirements and so forth. So that ends the very first part of a 3-part saga in Once Upon a Wasteland. With that, hopefully I didn't get too confusing. Hopefully this made sense. Hopefully it helps you understand how to play this if you're trying to do this with your own friends. Next week we will get our second part of this done, and then a week after that we'll get our third one. Hopefully this went well for you. Hopefully you understand what I was trying to do and say and all that. And hopefully, like I said, it's not too confusing. Thank you so very much for joining me around my pool table so we can try and learn how to play this. Hope you had a wonderful time. If you have any comments, please leave them in the comments section. I'm always happy to hear what you guys have to tell me. So until then, see you next time, and have a good one.